I've had a lot of friends and family ask me why I left the church. And first, I just want to say I kind of take issue with the word "the." I left a church. I stopped going one Sunday. I go to a church now. I go to a few churches. I just stopped going to a church. And to me, that question is almost as complicated as why I left my marriage. Well, yeah, one day I caught cheating, snapped my fingers, said, get out of my bed, go sleep on the couch, and filed for divorce. But, you know, there were 24 years of onion peel layers underneath that. And if all of that had been different, then maybe that night there wouldn't have been a get the hell out of Dodge type of situation. It was the years of falling out of love, the years of his pin drop was over there and my pin drop was over here, and we are different people, and you're not resonating anywhere near the same frequency that I am, and you want to go out and play on your speedboat and country dance with whores, and I want to feed the homeless and build a business. So it's complicated, and my leaving a church one day is also complicated. But I just want to tell the story of that very last day because I think that it kind of contains, you know, a lot of the reasons. So we'd moved back to Gilbert, Arizona for a very specific reason. This was the congregation, the community where I had raised my oldest. You know, my 22-year-old was blessed in this church, in this ward. And so I've been through so much with my tumor and my near-death experience and the abuse and the betrayal and losing my house and all this stuff. Like, I just kind of needed healing. So that is why we moved here, to kind of reroute and reconnect and heal. And that is why, in particular, this one Sunday in October, I went to the Mormon Church. Why I got dressed all fancy, put on my high heels and a skirt, because Jesus only wants women in skirts, right? Why I set the tone that morning with some Sunday music and waffles, and why I wasn't out on the lake or something instead. Because I had an open heart and I was looking for fellowship and love and light and a little bit of inspiration. That's why I go to church, that warm, fuzzy feeling. And instead that day, sacrament meeting was, you know, it sounded like it would be good. It was on the family proclamation. I'm a mom, I have a family. But what it turned into was, I think the Relief Society president, no, I think it was the primary presidency, somebody just blaming and shaming women who work. And I looked around this congregation at all of the professional friends of mine, and I work. And I thought, this is just a platter full of guilt and shame. And it made me feel horrible. And so I left and walked out the back. I went to Gospel Doctrine and thought, okay, let's have a good Gospel Doctrine lesson. Within about 5 minutes, it turned into an anti-age class, the likes of which I've never heard. They've been around the earth because of what they did to Christ. And I gave it a little time to see if he would develop into something else, which it didn't. And it went off on an even greater and more offensive tangent. And I raised my hand, not to argue, not to cross-reference, not to shed any great big light on anything, but just simply to say, I don't want anyone to think that, I'm so shy too, but I don't want anyone to think that I'm going out to get a drink out of the drinking fountain or use the restroom. I want you to know that I'm walking out of this class because of what's being said, and I'm offended. And I'm not going to sit and listen to this or be part of a community that teaches this. And so I walked out in the hallway. I don't know if I'm a glutton for punishment, but I went to Relief Society. 10 minutes later, so this cute little blonde newlywed girl was teaching the lesson that day, and it sounded cute in the beginning. She was talking about, I think, her sister-in-law, who had attended church with them for mission farewell or something a couple weeks before, and how the sister-in-law had come to church in pants, oh my God, and how that she had like a Dutch Bros in one hand and a bad attitude, and how embarrassed she was. And then it developed into the sister-in-law has just come out as bisexual, and much of the lesson was how bad homosexuality is. So I listened for a bit, and again raised my hand and said, this is so offensive and lacks love and compassion, and there's nothing good being taught here. And I left and took my kids out of primary and walked out the door. Of course, there are years and years. I have my abuse story. I have the mistreatment with the bishop and, you know, threatening my life through, you know, that's a totally different, that's the podcast. That's not this little YouTube video. But, so there are layers and layers and layers to it. But that day I simply went seeking peace, seeking some sort of alignment, seeking really something to resonate in my own heart so that I could walk out of that building that day being a better person than I was. I was seeking a reason to be good and do good, something that would make me look higher and look to a little higher source, a little higher power. And instead I was plunged into guilt and shame. So I walked out and I never went back. It doesn't resonate with me. And yes, there are the broader things, just with my marriage, all the things that I discovered and the lies and all of that plays a factor. But that day, I simply could no longer deny the discord, the dissonance, and the lack of harmoniousness that I felt. It wasn't for me. So I walked out seeking that which is. And I'm sorry, and if it's for somebody else, if it's, my mom and my cousins and my uncle and everybody that it's for, well, if that resonates with you, then let it resonate with you. But this little heart of mine can't take it. It's just not for me. Some people like vanilla, some people like chocolate, some people don't. And that's okay. So I didn't leave the church. I just walked out of a church one day and made my own path. It's such a little thing. Anyway, that is that. Thank you all for being so concerned about my soul going to hell. I'm concerned not at all about yours. This afternoon I'm concerned about how I can help the little teenagers that are over here for slumber party. Some of them don't have parents and are going through a lot of stuff. And then I'm going to go attend a church tonight for a little bit of motivation and fellowship and see what other good I can do in the world. I don't know if I believe in Jesus. I don't know if I believe in Buddha. And yeah, I'm the darling of the Mormon Church with all of my high callings and my near-death experience. And I don't know. It's just not for me. I don't know if any of that works. I believe in good because good works. So, simple as that. I'm sorry. I love you guys for who you are, and I hope you love me for who I am.